Most detective films give you a hero who figures everything out. Night Moves does the opposite. It hides its ending in the opening scene, buries it in a conversation most people completely ignore, and lets it sit there for 50 years. Here are the hidden facts they never revealed. 1. Here's the thing about Night Moves that most people miss on the first watch. The film tells you exactly what is going to happen right at the start, and it does it through what feels like a throwaway conversation about chess. Harry talks about a chess player who made one wrong move and then spent years going over it in his head, trying to figure out what he missed and how everything changed because of a single decision. It sounds like small talk. It feels like background noise. But that scene describes Harry himself and everything that happens to him over the next 90 minutes. He spends the whole film chasing answers while the truth keeps slipping past him. And when he finally sees the full picture, it's already too late to do anything about it. That little chess conversation told us all of this right from the beginning. 2. Before this film became Night Moves, it had a completely different name: The Dark Tower. Nobody really talks about that, and it's easy to see why, because the two titles feel like they belong to different films entirely. But changing that title might have been one of the smartest decisions made during production. Night Moves carries a meaning that quietly runs through every scene. It connects to chess, to strategy, and to someone making moves in the dark without fully understanding where those moves are leading. Every step Harry Mosby takes through this story feels like exactly that, a move on a board he doesn't understand. He keeps pushing forward, keeps searching, keeps thinking he's getting closer, and the title captures that feeling without ever explaining it out loud. By the time the ending hits, those two words carry a weight that The Dark Tower never could have managed. 3.
Mosby Confidential. What kind of bullshit name is that?
Harry Mosby is a private detective, but the writers built him to be nothing like the detectives audiences were used to seeing. He's not the coolest person in the room, he doesn't stay 3 steps ahead of everyone else, and he definitely doesn't have everything under control. He misses things. He reads people wrong. He trusts moments he should not trust. He walks past clues that are sitting right in front of him. And that was a deliberate choice, because the whole point of the film is to put a detective inside a mystery that is moving faster than he is. Most crime stories are about the rush of solving something before everyone else does. But Night Moves is about the slow, creeping feeling that the truth is right there, and nobody can quite reach it. That tension builds quietly through every scene, and it never fully releases, which is what makes the film so hard to shake. 4. One of the most fascinating things about Gene Hackman's performance here is how much of it happens in silence. There are scenes where enormous things are unfolding around Harry. People are lying to his face, relationships are falling apart, and the truth is moving right past him. And Hackman says almost nothing. Director Arthur Penn leaned into that silence on purpose, and Hackman made it work through a glance, a pause, or the way Harry sits in a room without answering. You understand exactly what the character is feeling without a single word being spoken. That quiet, restrained performance becomes one of the film's biggest secrets, because in Night Moves, the loudest moments are the ones with no dialogue at all. 5.
It isn't any better.
One detail that rarely comes up in conversations about this film is that Melanie Griffith was only 17 years old during filming, and this was her very first feature role. What makes that so striking is how completely natural she feels on screen. There's no stiffness, no hesitation, nothing that gives away that this is someone doing it for the first time. She fits into the film as if she has always been there. Looking back now, it feels like the very beginning of a career that nobody fully recognized at the time. A first role buried inside a film that would take years before the world caught up to how good it actually was. Subscribe before we get to fact 6, because that is where the whole story behind this film flips completely upside down. 6. On the surface, Night Moves is about a detective working a case. There are clues, there are suspects, there is a missing person, and a man is trying to piece it all together. But the further you get into the film, the more obvious it becomes that none of that is the point. The real story is happening inside Harry. His marriage is falling apart. He's emotionally distant from the people around him. He's growing increasingly frustrated without fully understanding why. The external mystery starts to feel like a frame around a much more personal one. Harry thinks he's investigating a case, but what the film is doing is investigating him, his blind spots, his failures, and the way he keeps missing what matters most. The crime is just a mirror, and Harry refuses to look. 7. When Night Moves opened in theaters, critics responded well to it. They could see the layers, they understood what it was doing differently, and they gave it real credit for that. But audiences weren't ready for it, and the film quietly underperformed and faded out without much attention. For a while, it almost felt like it had disappeared entirely. But then, through small screenings and home video releases, people started revisiting it with fresh eyes, noticing how complex the storytelling was, how unusual Harry felt as a character, and how different the whole tone was. Slowly, the reputation of the film completely reversed itself. What had been a box office disappointment started being mentioned alongside Chinatown and The Long Goodbye as one of the defining neo-noirs of the 1970s. 8. There is one moment in Night Moves that people who have seen it never quite forget. Harry's following the threads of the case when the film drops him and the audience into something completely different without any warning. A plane wreck, sitting underwater, silent and frozen. No build-up, no preparation, just this strange and deeply unsettling discovery hidden beneath the surface. What makes it work so well is the way it arrives. It doesn't feel like a normal plot development. It feels like something that shouldn't have been found at all, like a secret the water had been keeping for years. The scene carries the weight of something wrong. Not wrong in a dramatic, explosive way, but wrong in that quiet, stomach-dropping way that stays with you long after you've moved on from the rest of the film. 9. The final sequence of Night Moves wasn't built to feel like a satisfying conclusion. It was built to feel like something is wrong with reality itself. The circling boat, the slow repeating camera movement, the water that never stays still, none of it signals resolution. It signals being stuck. Harry ends up at the center of it with no clear direction, no control over what's happening, and no forward motion that leads anywhere meaningful. The film just keeps turning in on itself, looping in a way that refuses to let you settle. And because of that, it stops feeling like an ending and starts feeling like a trap. Even after the film is over, that image of the circling boat stays with you, not as a conclusion, but as a feeling that you cannot quite shake or explain. Drop in the comments which overlooked films we should dig into next, and subscribe if you want to be there when we do.